Kingler released with Genetic Apex, and within that expansion, it just wasn't that good. But with the introduction of the new Vaporeon, Kingler's got a new lease on life.
What's up, guys? It's me, Mochi. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so I can eat.
I call this deck One Punch Crab. Shout out to my One Punch Man fans. We have 2 Krabbies, 2 Kinglers, 2 Articunos, 2 Eevees, and 2 Vaporeons. Supporter cards, we have 2 Misties, 1 Giovanni, and 1 Sabrina, along with 2 Leafs for the retreat costs. We also have a Professor Oak in supporters, and for items, we are just running 2 Pokeballs. I am currently undefeated with this deck, which sounds absolutely crazy, and we defeated a Celebi deck, a Gyarados deck, and the Tricolor Pidgeot deck, and I'm so excited for Kingler to actually be relevant with the inclusion of Vaporeon. Now, Kingler is the main hero of this deck, but every single card in this deck does matter. Kingler himself has a 3 energy cost for a move called KO Crap, which deals 80 damage. You flip 2 coins, and if you hit 2 heads, it does an additional 80 damage for 160 total, which is the same damage amount as Marowak EX, but in this situation, you get a guaranteed 80 damage no matter what. Bulk-wise, we do have 120 HP, which is pretty decent. Now, Articuno is our main Stormon, I guess you could say. If you're not starting on field with Eevee, you're starting ideally with Articuno. It is 100 HP, which is quite good, and it has a 3 energy cost for the move Ice Beam. Ice Beam, of course, is a coin flip, and if you do roll heads, you get a paralysis on your opponent, and they can't do anything with their on-field Pokemon for that turn. It's very useful. Now, probably the most important card in this deck is the Vaporeon, and that is because of its ability Washout. So you can switch in a Pokemon with 0 energies to your field, and as long as you have energies on your bench, you can transfer all of those water energies to that water Pokemon. And it does have to be water Pokemon that you're doing this with. You can't do it with any other Pokemon. Now, in an ideal situation, you're getting your Articuno or Eevee on field first, and you're either attacking with Eevee straight away, or you're building the Articuno. Now, the beauty of this deck is it doesn't matter which of your Pokemon you feed your energies into, because at the end of the day, all you have to do is retreat that on-field to the bench, and you can use Vaporeon to transfer those energies back to the on-field active. The inclusion of Vaporeon is what makes Kingler such a viable card, in my opinion, in the current meta. In the past, he was very difficult to set up. 3 energies is a lot. 120 HP isn't too much, but the damage it does is really, really good. And the potential to one-shot about 80 to 90% of the Pokemon that exist in Pokemon Pocket, Kingler is actually a really cool card. The other benefit of this deck list is that it is a 0 EX deck. That means even if it takes a few turns to get your guys set up with the energies they need, if you have to sacrifice a Mon, it's not the end of the world because they need to kill 3 of your Mons to get the W. Now, Leaf is very important to this deck because Kingler has a 3 retreat cost. There will be scenarios where your Kingler's taken damage, but it's also dealt damage, and you need to switch your Kingler out maybe for another Kingler, maybe you're switching it out for the Articuno, maybe you're switching it out for the Vaporeon. So the 2 retreat cost here is very useful because you save as many energies as possible, meaning that Washout is able to actually serve its purpose. Misty, of course, goes without saying as being a pretty fun part of this deck and pretty fun part of every water deck. You flip coins, you get energies. If you pull off even 1 Misty heads, it's actually a really massive boon for this deck. And even if you roll nothing but tails, this deck is fine without Misty proccing because of what I said earlier about not having any EXs. You have the ability to sacrifice a couple of Mons to get your deck really going. And at the end of the day, it only takes 1 Kingler fully set up to sweep their team if you can land those heads. So the first game is against Celebi EX, which is a pretty cool benchmark because Celebi EX is a very highly played deck. We had a pretty good starting hand here. We had a Pokeball and a Professor Oak, so we were able to Pokeball into Articuno, and we actually Professor Oak into not 1, but 2 Vaporeons, which is a very interesting start. So on my friend's first turn, he put an energy in the Kangaskhan and he went for Dizzy Punch, and he rolled 2 tails, which was nice for me because that would have taken out my Eevee. Now, we drew into a second Eevee, which is a very nice backup plan for me. If my first Eevee does get taken out by Kangaskhan, I have a second one on the bench. So I decided to Sabrina Kangaskhan off the field in hopes that my opponent would just leave Snivy there. I don't like wasting Sabrina early because Sabrina can definitely win you games, but I figured it would be pretty safe in this instance to give it a whirl. So I continue steps into the Snivy, hoping maybe I get lucky and roll like 4 heads in a row. It doesn't happen. So my opponent is pretty much going to do one thing and one thing only, and that is get Kangaskhan back onto their field. So Kanga comes back in, and I'm obviously like, please do not roll heads. That would suck. Unfortunately for me, they only roll a 1 heads, which means my Eevee survives, which is very good for me. So drawing into another Oak on my turn is very, very nice. I get both my Vaporeons down because now my on-field Vaporeon can easily tank Kangaskhan this turn. My opponent won't be doing much next turn unless they have another leaf to burn. But they actually wasted a leaf on the earlier turn to get Kangaskhan back on the field, which is very good. It means that I don't have to worry about leaf coming up for a while, and potentially they're only running the 1 leaf. You can actually see it in their discard pile right now. So very expensive retreat just to get Kangaskhan back on field with 30 damage, so that works for me. So I kit up my 2 Vaporeons, and then I get an energy into Articuno. So I'm pretty well placed here for a good starting point. I really just need to draw Kingler now. And if we can get a couple of Misties, that'll be pretty cool too. So my opponent got their Superior down, which is a little bit scary. But luckily, Superior doesn't actually buff non-grass types. So Kangaskhan still only has the 1 energy, meaning it still needs a Leaf to retreat or a heavy energy investment. He does get the double head, so he gets 60 damage into my Vaporeon, but I have a Leaf, that's not too bad. So we're going to Leaf off the Vaporeon. A very important point here is I didn't just get Misty and instantly go, oh, I need to play Misty. Because of Washout, I actually have the ability to get my Articuno onto the field and doing damage this turn. If we get the Paralysis, that puts us in a very good position to get a free early point from Kangaskhan. I went for this instead of just burning Misty, because burning Misty would have put me in a very awkward spot, and my on-field Vaporeon would have been stuck there and probably dying to Kangaskhan next turn. I don't get the heads, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So not much happened on my opponent's turn. Really, all they did was put an additional energy into Celebi, and they're going for another Dizzy Punch with Kangaskhan. They get the 30, which is fine. But what this means is I get the kill into Kangaskhan no matter what, which means I get a point. I've also now drawn my Kingler and I have the Misty ready to go, which is really, really nice for me. Ultimately, yes, my Articuno will be a sacrifice here because it is definitely going to die to Celebi on the next turn. I can't help that. Celebi is going to have 8 coin flips because he's currently got 3 energies, 4 next turn, plus the Superior Boon. So I'm expecting to get definitely defeated by Celebi on the next turn. But I got 2 Misty, heads, which is very nice. My Kingler's ready to go. Even if my Articuno goes down, Kingler can go straight to the field and potentially one punch, one shot, the Celebi. And this is why I call this the one punch deck. the one punch crab, man. So I've taken out the Kangaskhan, I've got my first point. As predicted, Celebi comes in. My opponent has just started throwing more energies into Celebi, so Celebi has 6 flips this turn, but 6 this turn, which is still more than enough really to take out my Articuno, especially when you're going to roll, 250 damage. That's enough to kill anything. Articuno goes down, which is fine, and now he comes down to my boy Kingler. Obviously, rolling a heads here times 2 is an instant kill, and I win the game straight away. If I do roll tails, it's not the end of the world because we will get 80 damage into Celebi, and we have a Vaporeon in the back, hopefully ready to go, but I do roll the tails on Misty. We have a low-cost team, so in a couple turns, we can have our Vaporeon ready to go, which means that Vaporeon can still take out Celebi before hopefully it takes us out. But at the end of the day, this deck is about this guy right here. I get the double heads, I hit Celebi for 160, we get the result, and that is GG. This is a really fun deck. Vaporeon's ability to switch energies around between your Pokemon is just so fun and so powerful for water decks in the current meta. And I think Kingler is actually a really strong card. Getting 2 heads feels like it's actually pretty good odds compared to other coin flip mons. I feel like other coin flip mons feel like you never hit them, but I hit Kingler very consistently. So match 2 is against the infamous and currently very, very popular Gyarados, Greninja, and Druddigon deck. So a pretty good matchup again. These are back-to-back, by the way. All 3 games I'm showing you today were in a row, and I feel very good about the fact we won all of them because they're all very on-trend decks. So this is, of course, against Gyarados and Greninja. Like I said, we got a pretty good starting hand. We got 2 Articunos, we got our Krabby, we got our Kingler, and we got an Eevee. All because we pulled an early Professor Oak, and we have a second Oak ready to go, which is Chef's Kiss. So very strong start for us. The one thing we are missing now is a Misty. Our opponents got an okay start themselves. They've got their Druddigon, the Magikarp, and the Froakie. Obviously, they would have preferred to have their Druddigon on field to start with, but they've actually done me a favor here, and they've wasted a Leaf in the early game, which I really appreciate, just to get Druddigon on field. Even though, realistically, they probably didn't have to, because if you think about it, I'm very likely not going to have my Articuno set up fast enough, unless I, of course, get lucky on Misty. But, you know, it is Misty after all, and I feel like it's a pretty low chance of rolling heads. Like, maybe like 2 in 10 Misties I feel like come off, you know. Misty is just one of those cards, dude. We got 1 energy in Articuno, and that's that. I don't mind which mons I set up, because like I said earlier, it doesn't matter too much. Once Vaporeon comes out, our energy management goes through the roof, so we can flip those energies around as many times as we want, which is really nice. If I want to get my Kingler on field in a couple of turns time, I can do that, and I can just use Washout, provided we have Vaporeon, and we're in a good spot. So my opponent goes for Misty on their turn. This is a water deck mirror, so obviously we're going to get some Misty action. And they roll tails too. Like I said, Misty is just... And our friends got their Gyarados EX down early too, which is kind of spooky. So we had the Oak, we had the Pokeball, we get the Oak down, which is good. Get our Vaporeon down into Eevee, which is very, very nice. And we have the Pokeball too. I'm not actually sure why I didn't Pokeball first in this instance. because I could have probably reduced the risk of drawing down on another Krabby, or another Eevee, but luckily it worked out in my favor. We did get the Vaporeon, which was very essential, but minor detail of a minor misplay there, but it made no difference in this particular case. So my opponent put an energy into Gyarados and then ended their turn. Pretty straightforward for them. Realistically, all they're doing is feeding their Gary to max energy and then probably have a second leaf in their hand and looking to get Dragon off field. I think I need to Sabrina here because I can get two outcomes. I can either kill Froakie for a point, or two, get a paralysis on this Gyarados. And I think this guy might not necessarily be thinking about washout. Maybe he thinks it's safe for Gary. But I wash out, get Articuno ready to go. And if we can hit this heads, we're in a very strong position to win this game. So we get the 60 into Gary here and we get our coin flip. And if we get this heads, man, I'm feeling pretty good about this game, right? And we do nail the heads. We get the paralysis on the Gyarados. 120 HP, paralyzed, meaning they can't do anything. This is looking pretty good for us. Now, I can pretty much either go for the chain paralysis on my next turn with Articuno, get another 60 down, or we can go for the Kingler Hail Mary. And, you know, I hate a coin flip as much as the next guy, but when I'm running Kingler, I gotta go for it, right? So I'm gonna Misty down. I think about it for a second. I'm gonna Misty down first here. I do have the leaf, and I did think about like the retreat cost, but at the end of the day, if we nail the Misty, it's fine. If we don't nail the Misty, then it's not a big deal because we can just flick the energies around. Now, something which kind of triggered me was my opponent has not lost this game by any means. But I think being in the situation they're in with the paralysis and the 120 HP carp, they actually rage quit. You can see waiting for opponent to return, which I was a little bit annoyed about. But I decided, you know what, if I can win it off this turn, then I feel like it doesn't matter. I can still take credit for the win. So I go for the KO crab. I'm hoping for the double heads. And we do get it. One punch. And he's gone skis. So that's this game done. My opponent will not come back, and I don't think they would after seeing the Gyarados get annihilated anyway. And that is the end of this game. So homie doesn't return. GG's. Thank you for playing. 2 in a row, back to back. One against Celebi, one against Gary. Now on this game, I managed to get second. On the last 2 games, I was turn 1, which is a massive disadvantage. So this game, we are a bit confused with what we're versing. It could be a few things. Until we kind of see what happens next. So Mew comes out first. Mew is on field. Mew is there. Damage soak. We see the Pidgey come out, which instantly tells me that we are versing the tri-color Pidgeot deck, which means it's probably also Dragon and two Pidgeot EXs and probably at least one regular Pidgeot. So that is the drive-off variant. But I have a pretty good starting hand. I got the Eevee, I've got the Kingler, I've got the Krabby, I've got a Geo. Like feeling pretty okay. One thing straight away, knowing that I'm versing the Pidgeot deck, I know not to stack my bench because Pidgeot EX obviously does 80 damage plus 20 for each mon on the bench. So currently Pidgeot would hit me for 100 with the Krabby on the bench. If I put down another mon, it would be 120, put another mon, it's 140. So I've got to keep the bench lean. Naturally, I go for continuous steps and I get nothing but tails. And I think this happens a lot to me. But our friends already got their Pidgeotto down and an energy into that, and they end their turn here. But that is a pretty ominous start for me. Drawing the second Kingler is, you know, it's okay. It means I've got it ready to go. So really, Kingler goes down straight away, and we start feeding energies into Kingler, and we just go for the continuous steps because, hey, I've seen people roll like 10 heads in a row with this bloody Eevee. Not against me, but just on Reddit posts or whatever else. And I can't even get one. I can't even get one bloody heads. So it is what it is, you know? So on my opponent's turn, they put a second energy into Pidgeotto, got the Mew EX down. Back to my turn, I'm getting more energies into Kingler, and I'm going for continuous steps again. Do we get any heads this time? Yes, we actually get 3. We get 60 damage down into Mew, which is very nice. What that means is that now they have to worry about switching out, because if Kingler comes on next turn, I can one-tap them even if we roll double tails, which is very nice. So I'm expecting the Budding Expeditioner to come out, and it does, which means they get a full HP Mew back onto the field, and they can switch their other Mew onto the bench. So, you know, that's a pretty good outcome for them. But at the end of the day, like if I get the double heads on my Kingler, I can take out the Mews in one shot, which is very good. So the Oak Draw here is really nice. I desperately need Vaporeon to come through just to make this work. We get the Articuno, we get the Vaporeon, and that is very good. Now, at this point, I decide I need to just play aggressively. I can't worry about Pidgeot EX too much. I need to get everything set up as fast as possible. I need to play to win. So I know loading the bench here, you know, is kind of bad. But realistically, I was already at the 120 threshold, which means either way, Pidgeot was going to one-shot everything on my team. I just had to play aggressive and I went for it. Unfortunately, I don't get the double heads here, which means I only do 80 here, but it still puts Mew on 50 HP. Fighting Expedition is gone. They wasted an early game Leaf from memory. So all in all, we're looking pretty decent here. They're kind of wasting their retreat resources early, and I've got some good damage down. So Pidgeot EX comes down, which is kind of ball clenching for me. But for whatever reason, they decided to energy into the Mew before they got the 3 into the Pidgeot or into the Pidgeotto last turn. You will notice that rogue fire energy on the Mew on the bench. This was last turn. They put it into that Mew instead of into the Pidgeotto. And they would have been ready to go this turn with Pidgeot to basically annihilate me. But instead, they're now a turn behind, which bizarre decision to do this switch. I think they should have switched into that second Mew, because now I'm going to get damage into the Pidgeot for free, which is crazy. If not one-shot the Pidgeot with my Giovanni, which I'm going to go for, because I have to, right? It just wouldn't be content if I didn't go for the one-tap. And if I don't get the double heads, I still get 90 in the Pidgeot, which leaves him with 80 HP, which means I can take him out on the following turn, and it puts the pressure on them to actually think about their next moves. But I will say there is a very, very clear misplay by my opponent here, and that is that they didn't just kill my Kingler. If you pay attention to my bench, I have Articuno, I have Vaporeon, and I have Kingler. All 3 of them have a 3 energy cost. I can't remember if I'd used both Misties at this point, but I've used at least one Misty. My opponent should know that I have no way to kill this Pidgeot if they take out my on-field Kingler. But for whatever reason, they've retreated instead, which was mind-boggling. I don't know why. I don't know if they made a bad decision, but they put the energy into their Pidgeotto on the bench and they're retreating off. The only thing I can think of is that they have a second Pidgeot EX in their hand already, which might be the case, but it just feels like a weird choice, because before I can get any energies into my Kingler or Articuno, they could have killed 2 of my Pokemon. They could have killed my on-field Kingler, and they could have killed probably my Articuno, which I would have sacrificed. So back to my turn, I just get energies down. I go for the kill on the Mew with Kingler. I don't get it, but now I've got 3 EXs on his team right for the picking on killable HP. They've wasted the turn. They've squandered, in my opinion, the golden opportunity to win. By all means, they weren't guaranteed to win if they killed my Kingler, but they were in a very strong position. And as I suspected, there is the second Pidgeot, which is a little bit ominous. But what's going to happen here is they're forced to basically sack this Mew or lose the game. If they pivot into their full HP Pidgeot, I'm going to win in a couple of turns. If they don't sacrifice the Mew, then they're sacrificing the other Pidgeot, they're sacrificing the other Mew. They're in a bit of a pickle here, which is of their own erroneous play. I think that they made a horrible mistake, which I just explained, but hey, you know, people make mistakes. Obviously, I'm going to go for the kill on Mew instantly. And the other thing that's happening here is they're giving me time to get additional energies down into my Pokemon. So I missed the end of Articuno because it doesn't matter again which Pokemon on my bench has the energies. I can just move it with Vaporeon. I roll 3, which is great. And we go for the KO Crab, and we get the kill guaranteed, even if we roll Tails, which is nice. The Mew goes down, we get our first 2 points. The pressure is now on them because they need to take out 3 of my Pokemon, all worth 1 point each. I've got 2 points. I just need to take out 1 more of this. Their entire deck is very EX heavy. I think everything in that deck is an EX. Maybe they're not running Druddigon. Maybe they're running... Oh, no, they are. Okay. I forgot about this. They are running Druddigon. Maybe that didn't draw early enough. I'm not sure. Now I'm in a very good position. He is, of course, going to kill my Kingler, which, you know, doesn't really matter now because I have a fully set up Articuno and I have a second Kingler. The game is definitely up in the air here still. He could easily sweep through my team. I need to pray to the coin gods here. What's there to do but go for the Ice Beam Hail Mary? So Ice Beam gets his 60 into Pidgeot EX, which is nice. And then we go for the heads and we nail it because... you know, I'm built different. I'm just built different. So Pidgeot EX is paralyzed. And this is where, you know, I kind of wish that I had a Sabrina, but they concede anyway, just because, you know, they're probably going to lose that. But at the same time, that wasn't a lost game unless I could have pulled off the double heads of Kingler. You know, they could have still won that game. I think conceding there was silly, but, you know, I'm not too mad about it. I got the 3 wins in a row. I beat the Celebi deck, I beat the Gyarados deck, and I beat the Pidgeot deck, and I forced 2 out of 3 into submission. Celebi, we just managed to beat, so all in all, I'm really liking this deck. Yes, it relies on coin flips. Heaps of decks do. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy this deck video of yet another off-meta deck, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share it with all your friends if they're into Pokemon TCG Pocket. Drop a comment below if you have any questions, you want to drop some feedback. I'm always happy to chat. So until next time, guys, goodbye from me. Goodbye from my little boy. Goodbye from my little boy. And I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, I just scared him by knocking the camera, so he gets a treat for that one. Come on. Oh, yeah. All right, just see you guys.